It's more kind of general things. I mean, I'm really excited. I mean, it's a shame that we've had to have a pandemic in order for people to be forced to experiment with digital, first of all. Like, I would love that might have happened more organically, but hey ho, this is innovation works in wonderful ways, right? I don't know. I guess my thing is, obviously I know that brands are gonna, like, the contraction rates are like scary in terms of like budgets, and the people who have budgetary power, I don't know, to try, if possible, take that into account and still do potentially like take chances on kind of new forms, and that there is experimentation and it's not a contrast of, at the same time, I understand people need to survive. So there seems to be this very, we need to do stuff to make sure people know where we are and know how to know what we create, and things like that, by using various different forms of digital showrooming or digital prototyping or things like that. But I don't know. I think there's a really strong, big challenge there that people will be like, there's a short-termism because we need to get out of this situation and people need to make it to next season, whatever season is going to mean. I still believe that if you are, like, all the cliches, authentic and genuine and differentiated, someone somewhere will find you, and that message kind of like will come out despite all the noise, because that still has happened, even in this kind of like we see the same memes, we see that some of the same like cultural references, or there still is that collective conscious. So no, and I think that should hopefully give people, whether they're a marketing team or a single designer doing every part of their business, I don't know, hope that, yeah. And also that this kind of thing about like not having, like, waiting is also okay, and waiting till you have the right thing to say. And I think that's been a really encouraging message, and even I've tried to do it myself as well. And then also, actually, if you've got something to say, then it's all right if you say a bit too much and then pipe down again. Where possible, but like I still also see like collective voices, and obviously things that like what you do at the Trampery, like if you're not able to, either from a skills or a money or whatever perspective, if you get together with other people, if you skill share in order to still, I don't know, have some kind of place where people can find you, then yeah, I think that's important. But again, that also, there's a pressure element there again that I'm also kind of conscious of. Only if it feels right for them. Like, I've spoken to a few designers, and some people are just like, if it's not genuinely part of their creative process, I mean, one, I would say try it, and if it isn't, don't do it. In the short term, because then it just won't come out right. But I think if you try it and it does work, it does offer so much possibility in terms of just on a pure content creation level, or portability into things like augmented reality, virtual reality. We are definitely going to see more PR companies, showrooms, wholesalers, etc. And also kind of like department stores and multi-brand stores thinking about how they can integrate this kind of stuff. So if you've got an asset that's ready to go, they might pick you over someone who doesn't. So there is an incentive to try it and see if it might work for you. Yeah, I mean, I think it was happening kind of anyway, but as a bit of a slower pace in terms of integrating new forms of 3D design or like kind of production methods into curriculums. But as you probably well know, putting new things into curriculums because of quality assurance can sometimes take a longer time. So that's a real, I mean, it was actually one of the reasons why I left academia full time, because the structures aren't in place to to be reactive enough to what's going on in the environment. So yes, but what I also see is like so much more kind of like self-learning and demand from the students to look at these kind of, I hate calling them like alternative methods, because they're like, and also like new forms. I'm working on like creating a new kind of like lexicon for digital fashion and digital stuff at the moment, because I feel like the words we've got just don't do it justice. And also everybody refers to them, but it's maybe talking about slightly different things as well. So yeah, I might have to work on that. That's what I'm going to be working on. I don't know. There's two sides to that. One is that kind of learning and the pace that you have, like whilst you're learning. I mean, it definitely it shouldn't be at the detriment to your health or anything like that. So I think if anybody was experiencing those types of things, then it means that the curriculum's not designed properly. There is something about, like, for instance, I always suggest that to all my students, irrespective of what they're learning, to go and work in PR, even for a short period of time, because that kind of, in terms of a career, always has the fastest turnover. It's probably one of the craziest, as well as design, in order to kind of work in, and obviously like crisis management and events and things that are only happening once. And that is another kind of area of the sector that's also having to pivot, I suppose, as much as possible. So yes, but there is also something to be learned by how to cope with that. I guess I've been using it as a time to, like, one of the things I love the most is like to look for kind of patterns in things, particularly disparate things, whether that's people or ideas. So I've definitely been using this time. I'm trying to put together like a map of the digital fashion ecosystem.
Okay.
And then also just, again, trying to look at like, what are the use cases? What are the barriers? I'm always kind of like, I will spend way too much time on Instagram looking for like potential 3D artists to kind of work with in the future. So yeah, it's crazy that there's never enough time. But on the flip side to that, I've started doing Tai Chi to add to yoga, meditation, breath work. So trying to offset all the time like this with this. It's like, it's a bit cliche-ish, I suppose, but yeah. And then again, I'm lucky to be next to nature, so looking at patterns in nature and thinking about how abstract stuff can maybe affect kind of what I'm thinking as well. I hope so. Actually, that's funny. I was thinking that today, because I definitely have like an extended morning and evening ritual that's now like, if things go back to the pace that they were before, I'm going to have to get up about 2 hours earlier in order to do like all the stuff that I really like. By the time I've like wafted my sage, done this, like done all the different like spiritual practices, I'm like, okay. And so I was like giggling at that this morning. But I think you always find a way. And then when you start feeling a bit blah, you're like, okay, I need to like readjust the balance. One thing I just wanted to add really quickly though, and it's a personal thing from my career, my kind of earlier career as a visual merchandiser. And a lot of people are talking about like the future of stores and stuff like that. Is, I think I've always, and many people agree, like the fitting room in a store is probably one of the most blah experiences.
True.
And if we think of the fitting room post-COVID, think people are just going to see like germs everywhere. And so I think my plea is that, like, if any, again, people who have like budgetary sign off, is to think about how we could reinvent like the fitting room post-COVID to make sure that people actually come into your store, because yeah, it's going to be interesting.